You're listening to the GC Collaborative Podcast, a resource for the worship arts team at Grace Church.
Well, hello.
What is up, everybody?
It is November
1st.
Yes, November 1st. Is it 1st is falling on a Friday?
Oh, I don't know. We just always release on November 1st.
It's the first.
Obviously, this is not live.
No.
We're live on
We're
November.
recording this in 2019. It's the date today is September 17th, 2019.
World's going well.
Everything's amazing.
Man, what could go wrong? Am I right?
The economy's booming.
Only up from here.
Everybody's health is just fine.
Yeah, we're going to the moon after this. There we go. You know what I mean? Nothing can go wrong.
Oh, my goodness. Welcome to the GC Collaborative Podcast. It is November, and I am your host, Ben Abusada, and to my left is the one and only Luke Lauber. Yeah. I'm so excited. We've got a great show today planned because today I'm excited about this one because it's unique in the sense that we've had I take that back. We've had a pretty good wide spectrum of content and people we've talked to.
It's been wonderful.
The past two, it was Tim, and then last month was Charla, yeah. So this month we are pressing into our visual arts side of things.
and
media.
Media and
scoring.
Music.
Instrumental music.
Instrumental. No words. How can that be worship if there's no words?
Right.
You know?
I love it.
Yeah. We're excited.
I'm very excited about it. So today we're going to talk to Kurt, who is the Olathe worship director. And we're also talking to, who?
Nathan.
You said Andrew earlier, so now I'm thinking Andrew. Nathan. We've got Nathan on the docket who creates music, crafts music. He's amazing. And Kurt also does music. And Nathan is also part of our communications team. He does a lot of the videoing. He assembles and edits the weekends every week online. And then we also have Chris Anderson. We don't know what he does exactly.
Yeah. He seems like he has a good personality, though.
I'm hoping we can figure that out through the interview. But
let's hope.
All three of these,
Chris.
I know, we love him. All three of these guys have wonderful hearts, very passionate about what they do, and passionate about serving the Lord in the arts. And we're excited to be able to bring their experiences to your ears on this podcast.
And the other crazy thing is this is the first one that I flew solo without you. So every once in a while you'll hear an oxygen tank going in the back because I'm stressed out.
You don't remember the first one you interviewed Jonathan by yourself. You do recall that, right?
Oh, that's true. And I guess I interviewed you by yourself, didn't I?
Yeah, see?
I didn't even think about that.
You don't even need me.
Gosh.
Luke, it's time to kick you out of the nest.
Here I've been using you as a crutch, and I don't need crutches anymore. I can run.
I'm not a crutch.
I can run.
Run, Forrest. Run. Run, Luke. Run, Luke. Run. So just real quick, before we get into the interview, just a quick update for the listeners. I did send an email to the South Overland Park team, and just to kind of let everyone know as far as how our organization is, some changes in the organization. You, Luke, are now the South Overland Park worship director, taking the reins from me. And officially, I mean, you've kind of been doing it over the past few months as my role has evolved and changed. So I'm excited for you. You're going to do awesome.
I'm excited too. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Taking those reins, leather with the horses.
Horses. Yeah, that's what you're...
Still smell your sweat on the reins because you've been driving them for so long in the heat.
Please tell me you're not calling your volunteers horses. That's awful. Awful.
Oops, no, did not mean that analogy.
That's a big deal for me. As my role has shifted and changed, I'm now kind of doing more actually not more. I am doing the campus support side of things with regard to worship and also the communications here at the church, making online stuff happen, which I love doing and I'm very excited about.
You're doing awesome.
And I'm excited about you taking the South OP worship role, director role, because you know this ministry, you know the culture, you know the DNA, and the people already love and respect you.
Nice.
If they don't, they're very good about hiding it.
Yeah.
So
great. And let's keep it that way.
Yeah. No. So it's a big deal. It's, I'll be honest, like it's one of those things. It was like, man, I've been doing that role since 2000 on staff, 2004, but I started in 01.
Yeah.
And so
it's pretty crazy.
Like, here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
It's a long time. So very excited for Luke and the ministry at South Overland Park. So without further ado, enjoy this interview.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the GC Collaborative Podcast. This episode, we are just so excited about for a few reasons. One, we have our film and underscore fellas. They also have different job titles than that, but that's what we'll call them for right now. They'll tell you their job titles here in a second. Don't you worry about that. They're very proud of them.
Thank you.
But we are excited because we released a lot of scores this last month, in the month of October, that we were just super excited about. And even this morning, actually, I was listening to some of them, and I was just blown away because you see the videos, you have voiceovers usually and stuff going on top. And so just to hear the intricacies of what you guys do in those scores, I was just blown away. This sounds maybe really funny, but I was watching the sunrise this morning and just listening to them, and I was just like, my goodness, how do your brains come up with this stuff? And then you add the film aspect on top of that and just how it all works together. And I know in conversations that we've had together, just the worship that you guys put into that, of just wanting to just honor God through it, and it's just really spectacular. And I just wanted people to kind of get a little bit behind the curtain of that today. So I'm going to have you guys go around and introduce yourselves. We've got 3 people. Ben is not with us today.
Rest in peace, Ben.
Yeah, he's
okay.
So we're going to try to do this. We'll see. We might have to redo it. He might listen to it and just be like, this was not good enough.
Wow. Doesn't sound like
so.
that.
No pressure, guys. No, just kidding. So let's start over here. Just introduce yourself. Obviously job title, and then sometimes job titles also kind of morph into other things. So if you want to talk about, like Kurt, I'll just say, you do scores for us sometimes, but that's not necessarily your job title.
So my name is Kurt. I am the worship director at our Olathe campus here. And every now and then I dabble with some orchestrations for some projects.
Dabble.
And whatnot.
It's so modest.
Yeah.
Dabbles. Goes all
Your
in.
definition of dabbling is a lot different than mine, but
Put it that way. My name's Chris Anderson. I'm the film director here. I've been here about 5 years. I work as campus support. I think I have probably the coolest job to get to work with these guys and in collaboration and making really cool stuff that hopefully moves in people's lives and inspires them to draw closer to God. So yeah. That's what I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You like working with us?
I think.
Oh, well, that's
Is
great.
that an epiphany
Good
for
to
you?
know.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Truths are coming out.
Yeah. My name's Nathan Fleming. I'm the video production specialist here at Grace. I just signed on earlier in 2020, but I interned here twice for 2 summers before that, and that's when I produced the documentary score for our Go documentary. So I mainly do video, but I do music every once in a while as well.
Do you dabble?
I don't dabble like Kurt. No one dabbles like Kurt.
Gosh, that's awesome. So kind of what I love that you guys do is the collaboration aspect of it. And I know you guys have to work through things a lot, and take us into that just a little bit. Because I know, like Anderson, you have a thought, you have a vision for kind of what you want things to sound like, and then you work with these guys and they have their vision as well. And so I'm assuming, I'm not like super into that part of it with you guys, but I'm assuming there's a lot of like give and take in that, and the collaboration of it, of, I think this idea is great, but so take us into that process just a little bit of how that works.
Yeah, I can do that. It's a fun process. I'll start there, but it's also can be relatively painful at times. You can hit walls very easily. I think there's a level of, with any project that we collaborate and work on, you start off with, this is awesome. And then you go to this next mode of, okay, we have some problems. And then you go to, okay, this sucks. And then you fall into the black hole of oblivion, which you start thinking, I suck. Then you start realizing, hey, we can fix these problems. And then you come out the other side and it turns out great.
I think every creative person just related to that.
Yes, yeah. I think that's
right there.
Yeah. But it is a give and take, like you said. Working with Kurt on the Easter project and working with Nathan on the Go documentary both looked a little bit different, but it always starts with a vision. And one of the things that I'll prop these guys up is one of the things that they're so good at is I can give them emotion words. I'm looking for this emotion in this moment, and they're able to take what the emotion words I give them and put them sonically and audibly and bring them to life. So that's something that they're just so good at. So it's a give and take. So then they'll send it back. Hey, can we tweak this for this scene? And it's a back and forth from there. So that's kind of what it looks like from our end. It's a fun, but yeah, like I said, it can be a painful process too. So.
Absolutely. And in that, so I love talking to you guys about this, and we might sit on this for a little bit, and I want to hear all of you guys and your opinions on it, is the creative process. And I love this story. It actually just happened a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was hilarious because it's so true, where as a person who creates things, you always assume other people kind of like know what they're doing more than you, I don't know if anybody else is like that.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh man, that guy's so good at this, like he's got it together, and you kind of like, and so I was a little bit that way with Kurt, if I'm really honest. Like, he made our scores or our music for Christmas last year, and just this beautiful, like, oh my gosh, what in the world, just insanely beautiful orchestration, all this stuff. And we were reminiscing about it because the crazy thing is and this actually happened with Nathan too, now that I'm thinking about it, when we first started kind of working together and stuff. Was this thought of, we wanted just some horns and strings and like maybe just pad them out and it'll be really simple and we'll kind of have a folky vibe with it. And then Kurt was like, oh, I kind of do that every once in a while. And it's like, okay, cool. And we had no idea what he was capable of. He was leading worship at Olathe, killing it at that. So I was like, it's probably not going to be that bad. I don't feel like he would like lie to us. That bad. Like, I don't think he's just going to have like this little child recorder and he's like, but we had no idea what was possible. And so, you have your frame of mind, and then he came in and just destroyed it, like made it into this huge thing that we never even imagined.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, that was so crazy because we had no idea like that you were capable of that, and just that happened. And he just, as Kurt does, I had no idea either. I had no idea what I was doing. This is the first time I kind of did something like that.
Oh my god.
It worked.
And so here I am thinking like he just knew, and so, but I think that's so much part of the process of, it's a very humbling process of, I wish it was the same thing, at least in my life, A plus B equals C. Never seems to be, as much as I'd like it to. But just to kind of talk about that, because you had to take a step, and I know all of you have in different projects, of that step of, I think people think like, oh, it's just this road that you're going to go on and you do it. But it's almost like the Indiana Jones, where it's like you're taking that step off the ledge, totally hoping something catches, and then it catches, and then you go through what you just talked about, just like, oh, this is great, and then no, it's horrible, And so all these things that I think we don't realize that at least every person I've ever met that kind of deals in this realm deals with to some level, and just talk about that a little bit, because I think it's so freeing for people to realize like you don't have it all figured out when you start, and that's the beauty of it. And just to kind of, Kurt, talk about that with Christmas, some of because I know you went through some ups and downs even with the Easter stuff, and just some films you've worked on, Chris, and Nathan, music and film you've worked on as well.
So and it was one of those things like, I'd never done that before, but I'd never had the opportunity to do that before. And it was one of those where the whole time during that, I was scared. I was scared out of my mind because I'm doing this and like, what if this sucks? Nobody likes this. And it was one of those where you, even in doing that, it's cool to do that. You got to take that kind of step out there and just try it. But it's great to have people around you to encourage you as you go do it. Because if you don't have that, then you will fall flat in it.
Yeah.
Because if you just rest on your own, like if I just kind of doing it and then give it to you and you take it and never give any feedback or anything, then the whole entire time I'm thinking, this sucks.
Right. Yeah.
Like this is not very good. And so just one of those where you got to kind of just go with it. And if it fails, okay. Well, don't do that again. Let's try something different next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know with the Christmas stuff was different than the Easter because the music was made before anything else was.
Yeah.
And in some ways it was a little bit easier because these songs were already written. The chord structures were already laid out. Yeah. And it was one of those where I'm putting in textures. I'm putting in, emotions in this area, making it big here, whatnot. I had hills and valleys to mess with as far as dynamics goes, but that's about it. I didn't know color schemes, whatnot, and I wouldn't have known what to thought if someone said, we're going for blue here. Oh, well, okay. That's
right.
Feel out blue.
Yeah. I don't know how to put that across to you, but okay. So that was cool to work off of, because you're running off of something that's already pre-made, and then you're adding your own textures to it. But the Easter one was probably more challenging than the Christmas one, because we started off, and you came and you said, here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And you gave like your storyboard for it.
Yeah.
And you gave colors, dampened colors and kind of muted tones and whatnot. And then you gave basically what you had envisioned for it, And so running off of that and then going and sitting at home, I sat probably for an hour or so at my house in front of my keyboard and just kind of like plinking around.
Yes. The plink phase.
Yes. I mean, nobody talks about it, but it happens all the time. You sit
and
there
the
and
first
you stare
5 things you make suck so much.
they're horrible.
And you're like, what am I doing?
It's like you might as well go to Walmart and record one of the little children's toys.
Yeah, the
press
Casio
button.
keyboard.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it's one of those where you
totally.
you gotta get the sucky stuff out first, because if you don't do this on a daily basis, I think it's kind of detrimental to you, because you start building up some junk, and you don't flex that creative muscle.
Yeah, that's
but
good, man.
Working with Chris on that, it was cool, because he would send me, hey, I've got some still shots.
Right.
And every day I got something new.
Right.
And so once I kind of had maybe a melody stuck out, and it may not be at the end, I could kind of go around what he's doing. And then little by little, he was really helpful in sending me little short video clips. The narration was in there, which was cool. So trying to play around that and not cover that up, which was really fun. Now, once that kicked off, and Nathan, I don't know if this is the same for you, but once it kind of gets going, it just takes off then,
Totally.
because you just kind of just keep rolling on it.
Yeah.
Snowball effect kind of thing.
But it's nice having someone else to kind of bounce off of, doing with the same end goal in mind.
Right.
Because you just kind of start to just work together.
Yeah, that's always such an interesting point when you get to that point of like, it's almost like it becomes better because you usually have gone through the valley of suck, as some people call it. Like,
The valley of suck.
yeah. But then
Write
you
that
hit
down.
that point, and it's so
That'll
exciting.
preach.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's like all of a sudden, it's like you've almost like lost all confidence in yourself and probably humanity to some level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take a walk.
And-
Call your mom.
Yeah.
Cry a little bit.
Actually, I think I know me and Nathan have talked many a times when I'm in that spot, and I'm just like, why do I even do this? Why am I alive?
Yeah.
Like, you just, and it's so, and you think you get used to it over time, but it just always seems like the first time you've experienced it every time. But then to hit that point of like, boom, everything's just flowing is always so exciting. And I think you said, and just even talking about with Nathan, like having people around you who believe in you, I think is huge as an artist, artistic person.
Community.
Because you get into those spots, and I don't know how I would have gotten out of them if it wasn't for different people speaking into my life who cared about me, not just what I was creating, but cared about me as a person and believed in me, and then believed in what I was doing. And so I think that's a huge just thing that we all need. And I know growing up it was like, I've got to be the lone wolf, I got to do this, and how much trouble that got me in.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
I think that's totally true, that the best way to overcome a fear of failure is having people around you that believe in you and are pushing up or holding up, helping you support what you're doing, and that can fact check you for when you're in the valley of suck. Like, no, that was good, take that up. I know I do that with you all the time, Luke. I'll get a mix to a certain point and not know what to do with it, and I need someone who's outside who can speak in and bring life to what has gone stagnant.
Yeah.
And I think it takes knowing that, which is hard, because I think growing up it's the opposite of like, you don't need anybody, you got to be the best on your own. But to say like and I think I think I'm speaking the right thing, where I don't sit there and think, oh, I could do this better than Nathan. Like, it's like I could never imagine doing what Nathan does.
Yeah,
but
takes
I
a
can be
team.
that outside ears that haven't been listening to it for 40 hours straight.
Yeah.
And I think I had to learn once again that the hard way of just being okay with other people to speak into things and not feel less than.
And we are better as a team overall.
And understanding the truth of that, because I think the other is a lie, obviously. So
That's good.
How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I think that. Have you ever had a project where like you work so hard and so long on it, going back to this idea when you're just by yourself and you look at it like the next day and then you're like, this kind of sucks. Like, I just spent hours working on this and I'm like, I don't actually like this, and you get that fresh perspective. I think like, I'll just give you my, some things that I've gone through with this idea of failure. I think I've really had to confront that for myself. I was telling Nathan before we even started recording, one of my greatest professional accomplishments in my career is doing the Go documentary. It was a 35-minute documentary highlighting and bringing light some things that big issues, people not having access to scripture in the world and how big of a deal that is. But my greatest accomplishment, I still somehow feel like I failed to some degree. And it's like I always get to that 98% threshold, that 99% threshold, but I can never get to 100%, it feels like. And I think I've had to confront this in myself, that having my existence somehow wrapped up in what I do, wrapped up in what my value is wrapped up in what I provide, the talents that I have, the skills that I have. Will it lose its quote unquote relevancy down the road? Will it stay at the top? You can't think about those things. And I think when you do, you start forgetting why you do what you do. And one time when we were doing that documentary, it was a crazy time. I was having our son was being born. The month before, I remember he was in the NICU for about 3 weeks. I remember being in the hospital room, editing, working, calling Nathan, working on scores. And I feel like, when you go through these seasons and you go through these times, like, I remember Tim, he said a message, have you really surrendered to God? Have you actually surrendered? And I remember I had this moment thinking, like, am I surrendering my talents and what I'm doing? What am I doing it for? Am I doing it for myself? And I sincerely believe that creativity, it's not for ourselves, it's for others. It's to serve other people. I think there's value in that. So I went on a rabbit trail. I apologize with that. But so
we're artists. We don't know where point B is.
So
we just
find it.
We figure it out.
So
but I think it's so true, because it's the hard side of, what does it look like to be selfless in art, and what is that? Because I know, and I've talked about before, of just like false humility, and I dealt with that for years and thinking, and so it's one of the things I know we've had conversations about and explored is, what does it mean to be a Christian who is creating, and what does that look like? What does it look like to think about that in a healthy way? Because it's dicey, it's complicated, and even I was thinking this morning of, the thought of, don't be too attached to what you create. And I was thinking, like, at least for me, when I create something, it's like a child to me. And so it's like, if somebody comes up and calls your kid Tubby or something.
How dare you?
Yeah, you get, you protect that kid, right? And so, but then it's like, okay, I don't want to be identified by it, but at the same time, if I'm not caring about it and I'm not, then why did I create it?
So
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, think about God creating the world and creation. And it's like, oh, this is horrible. And it's like, but don't get offended, God.
I found myself falling into that trap. I've often felt like, as a creative, in making stuff that is an expression of what's going on in my heart or what I've been thinking, or a vision of some sort, putting that out there and then having it not be received well or received well, I just find myself starved for affirmation. But also when people give it, I like turn my nose up to it. I like turn away from it. I feel like a starving person, like pushing a plate of food away from myself, because there's this fear that I'm being prideful if I take enjoyment in hearing other people say they enjoyed what I created, which is I think there's a strange balance towards narcissism, because I think the process of creation is a very godlike thing. I think that's one of the ways we exemplify being in the image of Christ, creating something out of essentially nothing, coming up with that. I think it's easy to become prideful. But yeah, there's a tension there.
Yeah. How have you dealt with that, with all that? I mean, I'm not saying you've perfected it. I don't think any of us would say we've perfected it. Yeah. Well, I've reached humility, but but just like, because I think that's important. I think that's what a lot of, at least conversations I have with people is how do you balance that? How do you walk through that? What does it look like? And so, and I haven't met somebody who's like, this is how I've done it. It's like, it's everybody's kind of in process of how do I create, but also in a healthy way, in a God honoring way. How do I take compliments in a God honoring way? Where you're not put, because that's, I think a lot of people have done that, where it's like the way to be humble is to push it away, and be like, oh no,
stifle it.
So, and I know we've talked about it, and so with as much as you want to share of just how you've walked through that and kind of grown in any way, like I said, you don't have to perfect it by any means, but just where you're at with it.
I wish I could just drop a truth bomb on everyone and this is exactly how you do it, guys. I'd say that's something I still battle, definitely. I think the pursuit is grace towards yourself, at least from what I've seen, is learning to give myself grace for the things I do wrong, because it's once again, it's a double-edged sword of, whenever I make a mistake on a project and that project goes out, like onto Spotify per se, every time I re-listen to that song, that mistake gets burned deeper into my brain. That really helps me improve, to be honest, because I'll never make that mistake again. But at the same time, I remember just times we'd be on stage on Sunday morning doing worship, people would be like, that was so good. I'm like, thank you, but I messed up at this one point. But I think it becomes a point of giving yourself grace for mistakes you made, avoiding pride, but at the same time letting yourself be pleased with, I made this and I like it. There's a lot of mental gymnastics I do that are kind of intangible, but that's good, I'd say a lot of it's in your head.
That's really good.
That's what I think. That's probably the biggest nightmare about, to me, is someone coming up and saying something, and that not even about music, anything at all. I can't, because you immediately become centered focused without even thinking about it. Because you're like, within a split second, you got to decide how to respond to this person. To not sound like, a jerk, or thank you so much, or whatever.
That's how you sound in my head, just so you know.
Thank you so much. That really helps me from now on. But I mean, I remember a few times, like, if someone comes up and I don't like this thing, I appreciate the affirmation. I really do in things, but I hate receiving it. But I want it. Because I want to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
You're starving for it.
That I'm doing okay. And that's one of my things is like, just, I need to hear those words so I can feel okay and keep moving forward.
That's really good.
But there's times whenever I try to, and not on purpose, you sound like a total jerk. Sometimes whenever you respond and you're like, why did I just, that's not who I am, and you're trying to be humble in a way, and then it turns out, because you're thinking so hard on it, that it just comes out rude, and it's like, this is great,
exactly.
And you start saying nothing. Then they're like, is this guy mute?
Right.
What's wrong with Kurt?
And it's, I try and it never works. I try, but every time that happens, I can never get to it. As I try to just be thankful for what I was able to do, and just be like, well, I'm just happy I got to do it.
And knowing you did your best.
If I could say that, well, I'm just happy I got to do it. And I generally am. But I never say that. I always say something stupid. Or I stare at him and go, I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't hear you. The initial introvert response. Say it again, I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
Well,
when you're trying to get a little more time to process what to say.
It's so hard, because I think there's so many things, like Nathan was talking about, there's so many things in balance with it, because one, it's, I think I speak for everybody in this room, you don't think you're an expert, you don't think you're God's gift to humanity, but you're trying to create this the best you can. So you already have that dynamic in your mind and heart. And then you have somebody, who was moved by it, which is, I think I speak for us all again, maybe, where that's, I mean, gosh, I know when somebody says like something I've been a part of or whatever has just changed their life in some way, like I'm just always like, how do we get to be a part of that? Like, what in the world, you know? And so you're so excited about that, but then you're like, okay, I know this is a gift from God. I know like that every talent I have is a gift from Him in some way, shape, or form. And even the drive to get better at that talent, I think, personally, is a gift from God.
Right.
And so you're just like, so how do I explain that in a simple, like, 2-second response, you know, and nobody wants to hear all that probably. They're just like,
you just start monologuing.
They're just and I'm never saying great job.
It's so true.
But it's hard because it's that, you know, and I know you're like me where you're a processor, a deep thinker. And so it's like you start going down and then,
I'll get back with you tomorrow.
Yeah, right. You know? Can I just send you an email tomorrow about my response to this?
But you need it at the same time. Because if people only said negative or never said anything, you get in your own head. And I don't know about you guys, I replay those things over and over in my brain, you know, just random times when I'm zoning out. The comment comes in my head that somebody said 3 years ago. And I think a lot about those. So I
think, you know, kind of switching gears a little bit as you guys have been talking, I think that I think it's interesting, the dynamic of creativity in the church world specifically. I think that in itself can present unique challenges. I'll say this, I've been at Grace for over 5 years now, and where we're at now compared to 5 years ago is just night and day difference. And that's for me, just, you know, speaking up our leadership and them making an investment in seeing the beauty and the importance of creativity. Because truthfully, you know, the first thing, what was the first thing that God did? You know, God created. And I think that, you know, here, even at Grace, there's so, you know, you have so many personalities and so many different types of people. You have the engineer-minded, the mechanical people, the mathematicians, you have and I think that creativity is so important because scoring and the visuals have this unique ability like nothing else to, in a way, it skips the brain and goes straight to the heart. When you listen to the scores that you guys make, the beauty of it, you don't know why you're not thinking about all the why you like it and why, but you feel it. And it goes right straight through to the heart. And I think that avenue of creating, God delights in that, and He loves that. And so for me, you know, as you guys were talking, you know, and I know we talk about the Enneagram a lot and different personality types. For me, I'm the kind of person where I will, once I finish with a project, I kind of just move to the next thing. I kind of just like, what's my next mountain to climb? What's the next big thing? How do I top that? That's what I struggle with.
Sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. Like, it's exhausting being myself sometimes, if I'm being honest.
And being
Ask
around
my
you
wife, she'll tell you that. You know, I
feel like
I
you
work
guys should start
myself.
paying me soon. This is becoming a therapist.
Sometimes it just feels like
The funny thing is, we're all like wearing black today.
That's right.
emo gang.
That's awesome.
But I struggle with actually the affirmation part, needing to stop and being okay with delighting in what I did. Like, that's what I actually struggle with. It's that, like, I just want to move to the next thing and say, okay, we did that, let's move on. But instead appreciating, and I love Justin Raby, who's my campus pastor. I go to the South Overland Park campus. One of the things I love most about him is he just has so many stories of how work that we've done or what God's doing, you know, how God's moving. And I just love talking with him and hearing how God's moving through some of the stuff that we're doing. Because if we don't hear that, for me, I burn out. I forget the why behind the what of what we're doing. And the ideas, the last thing I'll say is the ideas for me worth chasing and pursuing are the ideas I can't stop thinking about. It's the ones that keep me up late, that I think through, musically, what could it sound like? Visually, this is what it could look like. I'll never forget one of the most painful times I had here at Grace this was 5 years ago, and I wanted to do.
At me. I don't know why
you were there.
Oh,
you were there.
It was.
I was sitting in front of the campus pastors. This is when we didn't have tons of relational equity built, trust built yet, and in my mind's eye, I saw this perfect vision of what this project wanted to look like, and I presented it, and the looks that I was getting was like freaking a dagger in my heart. I walked out thinking like, holy crap, if I don't execute this perfectly, they're never going to let me do a project again.
Well, I think it was your first kind of big video project.
It was.
Which one was this?
It was Banner Years. It was Banner Years.
It was Grace's 20th?
It was Grace's 20th birthday, I believe, and it was, and I think it turned out well. But again, I look back and I'm like, oh, I could have done this better. I could, it's that.
You always have to love that.
It's that trap that every artist falls into. But yeah, I'll never forget. That was probably one of the most painful memories here at Grace. It was so awkward.
It was great though.
We did it, and we take. One of our values here at Grace is taking risks, and we take risks and. A lot of times it pays off. A lot of times it doesn't, and that's okay.
That's the hard part about risk, and that's something I know we all deal with in different ways. But just because the reason it's a risk is you don't know if it's going to work.
Right. Exactly.
So you could be, and I know, like even I'm thinking there's the beginning song. Nathan, we did it a few years ago. And we were like, let's just release it. We have it. Like, we should release it. So Nathan was like, well, let me bulk it up a little bit. Goes and does who knows how much work.
So much.
To bulk it up. And then it's like, kind of lost its initial, like, pizzazz.
Yeah. Charm, punch.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is great.
Now, granted, we did take some things from it and put it in it and stuff like that. So it wasn't all for naught. But that's the hard thing, because then in a world of efficiency and, every second matters, it can feel like, that was a failure. Why did I do that? But in reality, I think some of the things we've done and created, I know a lot of people who create, it's those failures that in some way, shape, or form do help in the future in
so
true. And it's easy to sit in the I've already done this, I know how to do it, and it's hard to, because I think you have to humble yourself to say, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know it all.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers.
Exactly.
But I have something in my heart and my mind.
Correct.
That I'm just passionate about, and I want to go after it. And I agree with you, Chris. I'm very grateful for a church and leadership that values that and allows that, and it's awesome. And it's frustrating at times because you're like, I failed, or this didn't work out the way we wanted it to. But it's pretty awesome to be a part of in that. And I know you guys inspire me even in your failures. Like it's cool I think that's cool too, as an environment of how, one, you can pick each other up, realize that we're not expecting perfection out of each other. It's okay to fail. But two, to just learn from each other in that, and say, oh my gosh, I remember this a couple years ago. We could actually maybe use that now for something, or a piece of that now, which is really cool too.
Yeah.
That's so true. And I think like when the Bible talks about how there's safety in a multitude of counselors, I think what you were saying earlier about the beginning song, the one with the tuba, and my experimentation on it, I wasn't afraid to go and try things because I knew you'd tell me if it sucked. Or
no, I would never say it like that.
Maybe if we try this. It's all about phrasing.
It's all about the phrasing.
But I know there's people that would catch it and would help. So there, I think the risk of total failure decreases when you have a lot of good people around you.
Yeah, and I think as we're talking, I'm thinking about this. I think it also is just knowing people are for you. Like I think that is huge. Like even in leading worship, I lead or play differently if I feel like, and which is always usually in my head, but if I feel like people are like, I just can't wait till he fails. I can't wait till he messes up. You know what I mean? Kind of that dog eat dog kind of scenario. But I lead and play so much differently when it's like, okay, we're all for each other. We're all after the same thing.
Yeah.
If I fail, I know they're not going to be like, haha, but we're going to come. They're, we're trying to build each other up and make each other the best that we can be. And I think that's just such an awesome thing in the collaboration of that. And I think it's just so powerful. And I'm excited, honestly, for the future of that, as hopefully we can bring more people into that in some way, shape, or form, and just encourage artists. I think that's the thing, is artists are our own worst enemies, and I know it's changed my life being with you guys and other people here, and just in all honesty, kind of calling out the demons in our heads,
True.
and saying that's not true, that's a lie. And all that. And the other thing I want to talk about, last thing, is just in the process, and this is what I love about each of you, is you guys, I think I can say this confidently, are much more meticulous than I am. Nathan and Kurt, both of you, I've worked with you on things, and you'll sit there and just be so meticulous. I have to leave the room multiple times. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I gotta go do something, because you guys are just like,
I'm gonna make a call.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta go get some coffee. But so there's that side, and I think we've talked about that side a lot, the serious, doing it. But I also think the thing I love about working with you guys, working with people at Grace, is the humor of it as well, and just having fun, having a good time. Laughing along the way, I think is so huge, because sometimes you need that. Like, you're so intense, you're so into a project, you're so just locked in, that sometimes you just need humor and just to, I don't know, blow off some steam, I guess, would be the thing of just making a joke or something. And I know Anderson has a couple times sent us videos of this really serious video, and just like at the epic moment, one was a watermelon exploded when his music just dropped, and they just put in this like 1 second shot of this watermelon just blowing up.
It's amazing.
But I think that's important.
I think of that often,
because once again, in a world of efficiency and all this stuff that we have to just keep, being moving forward, all this stuff, it's important, because that can be seen as a waste of time, in all honesty, like joking around, laughing. But I think it actually adds so much to the creative environment in a situation, and to be able to laugh together. Because I think if you can laugh together, you can have those really serious moments and those conversations. And once again, it's out of a place of, we know we're for each other. We have that relational equity. And so when it is, maybe something's not as great as we thought it was, or whatever, when those conversations happen, it's not this, they're after me. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, you need it all almost to be able to thrive. Yeah,
that's so true. And I have a question for you guys. We're probably finishing up here, wrapping up on time, but I think one of the big things that we've battled and wrestled here at Grace is continuing to grow a culture of that fosters creativity. And so for those people that are listening, that maybe they're from another church, or maybe they're struggling with that, how, for you guys, would you say is the best way to go about that? How do we help foster and grow a culture where creatives can thrive? Because I think in the last 5 years, not to say we'll ever fully get there, but I think we've taken so many strides. What do you guys attribute that to, and how do you think that should look in a church, specifically in a church world?
All right.
Kurt doesn't want to go first. What's the process? What are you doing, Nathan?
All right, okay. Just trying to be polite. I think I can say, coming in fairly young into this work environment and this process, because I started as an intern when I was like 18 or 17. I think, and this could be wrong, I'm willing to admit that, I think
just so you know, let's just put the standard out there, because I'm the same way, where it's like, I could change my mind in 5 years, 10 years, and then this is on tape. I'm nervous. Like, I don't know if I'm going to agree with this when we're done with this podcast. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this is all, we're just figuring it out as we go. Let's just
my
always
humble
the case.
opinion
On this podcast,
on this day.
Everything is said. We're figuring it out as we go.
That's a good disclaimer.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
But I think it starts, and it at least starts with the leadership and how they view creativity and new ideas, and how they empower their staff to do things like that. Because you were my supervisor, and Luke was actually my supervisor for my first one. Chris was for my second. And both of you, when I had an idea, said, yeah, do it, go for it, or gave me time and space to create or have ideas. And my current boss, Ben Abusada, also does that. And that makes me so inspired, so much more inspired than do this task and this is where we're going next. That's very monotonous. But when I have a role that inspires me to be creative as a creative person, so they're utilizing that part of myself instead of stifling it. Which is why I think certain churches like Elevation are thriving so much creatively, is because their head pastor, Stephen Furtick, is just so empowering in that sense of people's creativity and allowing people to be that way, I think is very important.
That's good.
I think you got to be able to talk about it. Let it be a topic of conversation.
That's good.
Because I mean, that's what happened with you. It was because we were just discussing Christmas. We were just happened to be sitting around, and you mentioned it, and I would have never said a single word unless you would have mentioned that. Just talking about ideas and things like that. And it's like, most creative people I know don't just walk around saying like, oh, I do music. Nope.
Those people are usually the ones who are a little scary, actually.
So it's just, you gotta let that be a part of your culture as it is. Let that be something that's always brought up in conversations and talked about. And even what we're doing right now, you're putting out a podcast talking about it that anybody can listen to. That I know previous churches that I've been, not that they're wrong in any way, but we just didn't do that.
Absolutely.
Because we didn't have the capabilities to, and it just wasn't a main focus. But I think we would be surprised what people come out of the woodwork that we even know right now, who are super creative, who will not say a word unless they're approached. And so just being able to be open to talk about it and kind of just, throwing the hook out there and just seeing what bites.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think too, my last thing is with that, kind of going off what you guys said, is I think no matter, work with what you have and be okay with that.
Absolutely.
It is so easy to look at, like, let's say Elevation and say, I can't do that. So you feel paralyzed and you don't do anything. So, you might, if you're in the film world, you might be like, oh, I don't have a C500, or I don't have a red camera, I don't have this lens, I don't have this stabilizer, so I can't do this. Take what you have and run with what you've got and be okay with that, because every church, every creative individual has to start somewhere. And I would just recommend, don't be afraid to start somewhere. And even if you feel like it fails, get back up and keep trying and keep going, because in the end, the church needs creative people. Like it's not, I think it's viewed as just a luxury or an add-on that, we can have. We need people in the church that offer creative skill sets, because again, I go back to, God is a creator, and if we're made in His image, we need people that create.
Absolutely. So. I think that is always my advice to people. The same thing. You can look at churches and be like, oh, well, they have this and they have that, and if we had that, we could blah blah blah. And I think that is a huge lie that we believe. Because if you talk to those people or read books or articles from them, they had to start from zero as well. And I think it is just recognizing, like you said, what's the talent that we have? What's the abilities that we have? And let's work through that. Because I think all too often we live in this world, which is a whole nother conversation, but where, oh, this church did this, we need to do that. That was so cool. And I think we actually burn ourselves out doing that, because that's actually not what God's created us to do, or the skills that we have. So it's important, and it's hard in the beginning, which I think is really hard, because if you're just starting, a lot of times you don't have everything. You don't have, like we've talked about, I look back at things 3 or 4 years ago when we only had a couple people on the artistic side of the staff. And it's like, oh gosh, that was kind of pathetic.
Right? It's intimidating too.
It's what we had, and at the time it it was beautiful, and we were so excited about it because it was a step forward for us at the time. And I think that is always so huge in just recognizing, like, don't compare yourselves. Like, just get that. That's the death of all artistry, I think, is comparing. Learn and be, inspired, but don't compare to what other people are doing. Because I know if I did that in my life, I would be done. In the times I do, I go into not a great place.
Absolutely.
And so, but it is, I think that's just such a hard thing to grasp, but such an important thing of just, what do you have? What's the abilities you have? Start creating the community within that. Start supporting each other. Start creating stuff. And just see what the Lord does with it. And I think, to me, you'll always be surprised when you look back and you look at where you're at. And just what God's done, and just the faithfulness of that.
Absolutely.
Because I was thinking about like fruit. It's like, oh, they're growing oranges in Florida. We should grow oranges in Kansas City.
Right.
That just wouldn't work. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
And it's the same thing with churches.
That's a good analogy.
It's the same thing with churches. Of what's the fruit that God's given you in your church,
right?
And grow that, and just be, the best you can be at that, and see what the Lord does in your community.
That's a sermon right there.
It is. Sermon series, man. That's good.
Sermon series.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good stuff, guys. I don't really know how to end this except for to say that this was awesome. And just fun to talk. And this is exactly what I wanted, just people to kind of hear the conversations of, and the freedom, I think, of just, we're all figuring it out. And that's the fun of it. Honestly, that's especially as a guy, I think sometimes, like, we love the exploring, of things, and it's just fun to explore and see, okay, what can we explore now and dive into. And so it's just fun to talk about it. And we never really know where we're going. So we have an idea.
Yeah, we have an idea.
Flexibility is huge. Well, I don't know. This is actually probably debated now, but even Columbus was going for India, and he hit America. So.
Wow, that took a left turn.
So
oh man,
but I don't know if what is true about that anymore. I don't even know.
Right. I heard he didn't make it to the Americas.
Really?
He died in the Philippines or something.
Yeah. See, I have no idea. There's been so many. When I grew up, Columbus found America. What has happened since then, I don't know. But
when I was a kid, back in my day.
Oh gosh, this showed my age. When I was born. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Seriously,
man.
This is awesome. So love you guys, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks for having us. Seriously.
Well, thanks, Luke, for interviewing those three guys.
Yeah, that was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah.
It was a good conversation, honestly. So I was just glad that they were themselves and got to just share their hearts and behind what they do, and I think hopefully eliminate. Wow.
Deliberate. Hallucinate.
Eliminate. I feel like I'm
mediate.
hallucinating. Eliminate some of the kind of the thought that, when you start a project or a creative or start creating something, that you just know what you're doing the whole time. But to kind of, it's a journey, and it can be scary at times. So it's cool to just talk about that with them, and it was good.
Awesome.
So
good stuff. Thanks, guys, for taking time to share your hearts. So
we got some stuff going on now.
Yeah, we do. So I was getting ready to say, you have been pushing the release of a lot of new content.
Well, old and new.
Old, refreshed, and new. And we've been doing that through the month of October, right, on the GC Collaborative
4 weeks
feed.
with 4 different releases of some kind. Most of them were singles. One was an album of underscores that Nathan did.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. They're everywhere. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, anywhere else you can find music.
Yeah, so be sure to go to the GC Collaborative YouTube page. It's probably the easiest because everybody has access to that, but you can go to the YouTube page. You can find the music released there and share it. Share it with people, and invite them to check out the awesome stuff that our artists are doing here at Grace Church, and invite them to church. It's a great tool to invite people to church online.
Absolutely.
And to participate at one of our campuses, whether it's online or at the brick and mortar places. So
absolutely,
we're very excited about it. And I think that's it today.
Well,
right?
Only one more thing.
What?
Every time we're going to end with this.
Yep.
Every time. And do you want me to do it this time?
You need to do it.
Okay. If you could either accept or deny the Planning Center invites, that always is very helpful and wonderful to everybody involved. And we appreciate you guys, and we just appreciate you. Just nothing's worse than a question mark. It's like
that's right.
living in limbo. You know that feeling when, like, You know, you're a senior in college, and you know what or senior in high school, and you know what college you're going to, and you're just like senioritis. You know, it's that feeling of like
anxiousness,
just the limbo. It's the limbo, and so if you just decline it, it makes us feel better, honestly, than limbo. So we love you all.
Decline and use your blockout date feature.
Oh, see, I don't even use that.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
See, I'm admitting things. Oh boy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Y'all
you
have
guys.
a great week, great month, actually. We'll see you next month.
That's right, December 1st.
Thanks for listening to the GC Collaborative Podcast. If you have any questions or would like more information, check us out at visitgracechurch.com.